starting with the great name of Almighty Allah, who is the most gracious and most beneficent.
Firstly, what irrigation is. Irrigation is the artificial application of the water in the field when the necessity of the crop water requirement is not fulfilled by the natural rainfall. So in that condition, we tries to apply artificially water so that the requirements of the crop should be fulfilled. So there are various methods of the application of the water to the crops, such as surface irrigation, surface irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, and subsurface irrigation. In surface irrigation is a process by which we give water to the plants in such a manner that the ponding just ponding is there, and about 90% of the field is irrigated through it. But it's not an efficient method, so we tries to switch to the method in which we should utilize the amount of water that is actually required, not in excess, so that we could not waste that water. So for that we move towards the sprinkler irrigation, in which we apply the water under pressure. About 5% of the about 5% of the land is irrigated, and then their other method is the subsurface irrigation, in which flooding water underground and allowing it to come up by the capillarity to the crop roots. Means first is the surface irrigation, in which we allow waters in the soil, in the crops, and under the action of the gravity the plants and the crops gets irrigated. Then there is a sprinkler irrigation, in which we make such a mechanism and setup in which the water is applied to the crops in a type of like a rainfall and sprinkle or over the land where necessary. Then there is the subsurface, in which we tries to increase the water table or the water underground water that will come from the bottom and will reach up to the roots of the plants, and this is how the subsurface irrigation process takes place. Then how we choose and decide that what kind of method we are going to use for irrigation. So there are certain criteria, like water availability, means water supply available. Like if I am saying that we are using surface irrigation, it will require great amount of water. Means at a place where there is a lot of water, then there is a possibility that we go for the surface irrigation. But if there is a lack of the water and there is a scarcity of the water, then it's difficult for the application of the water. Second criteria is the topography of the area. If the surface is smooth, there is not that much undulation is there, or ups and downs are less, or ups and downs are more, then looking at the topography, we choose that which method would be suitable. Means if there will be less undulations, then the surface irrigation would be okay. But if there are so much undulations is there, sometimes there is a hilly area, somewhere there is a depression in the field, then we go with the sprinkler irrigation, because it becomes difficult for the surface irrigation to reach it to cover the crops which are in the undulations and where the surface is not even, and where this sometimes the slope is in opposite direction, then again it will become difficult for us to apply the water with the help of this method. So topography is a major criteria for choosing the irrigation. Then the climate of the area. So if there is a hot climate and the somewhere there is a climate is such that rainfall occurs like rainfall is satisfactory for the plants, then in that case the irrigation will be required less. But as in Pakistan, the rainfall is the natural water, that is the rainfall, it's not satisfying, is not justifiable, so we tries to move for the artificial irrigation. artificially application of water, that is basically irrigation. So another is the soil of the area. Like soil of the area, it's whether the soil is retaining more water and whether soil does not retain more water, so it also depends on it. And then there is the crop requirement, means crop to crop it varies. Like paddy crops are there, then paddy crops requires more water then other than there are some, like crop is there, that is the sugar cane, that is the perennial crop, and that requires water. Actually perennial crop, the sugar cane is that crop which whose in which what happens is that the it is that crop overlaps the two seasons, that is the Rabi and Kharif. So because of that overlapping, we call those crops which overlap two seasons as the perennial. Means it's not like whole of the year they require water. Even sometimes if they are just overlapping and coming into the few other months, then we then we uh, then we give and provide then we say that this is the perennial crop which overlaps the two seasons such as sugarcane. Then there is the economic, or like how much we have the how much we have the money to make such a setup. Like if the budget is less, then it's likely possible that we cannot make such a mechanism which is efficient. Because again, from small system to the large system, there are some complications. Means if there is a simple farmers are there and they are just giving have land, a piece of a land, and they are just irrigating that their complications and complexity would be less than the mega projects for the irrigation for the production of the crops. And then the local traditions and skills, means if the laborers are not skills, they do not know that how much water should be applied, and they have not knowledge of that what crop means what how the crop should be, how much water is required, should be how much water should be given to the crop, and what is the way of like they don't know the rotation of the crops. That if because continuous growing of the of just single and the crop every time makes the uh, the soil reduces the those minerals capabilities for that particular crops which they need for their growth. So crop rotation is also necessary. So these were some criterias. Now coming towards the further surface irrigation methods. So the main classification of the surface methods are like free flooding, border flooding, check flooding, basin flooding, furrow irrigation method, and drip irrigation method. In free flooding, we tries to excavate the ditches in the either on the contours or on the contours or on up down slopes. So if we will move with the if we will dig out or we will excavate the and make the ditches in the direction of the contour, that would be more beneficial for us, because that will be a natural slope will be there, and water will tries to move itself by the action of gravity. Otherwise uh, if we will do against the opposite direction of the slope, then it will become difficult for us for to supply the water in free flooding. So the characteristics of the free flooding is that the land preparation cost is low, labor requirements are usually high, water application is efficiency is also low, most suitable for closely growing crops. um, Crops spacing between contour or ditches is mostly kept about 20 to 50 meters, and spacing also depends upon the slope or texture of the soil and crops to be grown. So this was about the free flooding. Now coming towards the border flooding or the strips flooding. So earlier we were trying to in the free flooding we were excavating material and we were making the ditches. Now this times we will divide the land in the numbers of the strips by kind of low leaves, means we will tries to make a little boundary with some sort of material, like maybe soil could be used there, so that the lane should be divided into the strips of about 10 to 20 meter wide strips and about 100 to 400-meter long strips, and water is allowed from the main supply to further in those strips, and this is how the water irrigation method takes place. So to prevent water from concentrating on either side of the borders, the lane should be left perpendicular to the flow. Means again I said that we will divide that lane into the strips by making boundaries with the soil, and that boundaries will be not would be at greater height, but just that water may not get concentrated in the single portion, but may pass from the each strip easily, and water is made to flow from supply ditch into the each strip. The water flows slowly towards the lower end and infiltrates into this soil as it advances. Means with the progress, the water is allowed to the strips and water is allowed to infiltrate into the soil. When advancing water reaches the lower end of the strip, the supply of the water to the strip turns off. The supply ditch, also called the irrigation stream, may either be in the form of the earthen channel or line channel or underground pipe having rise at the intervals. Okay, now coming towards the other type, that is the basin flooding. Now, firstly, we discussed the free flooding, that is the in which we allow water through in the ditches, means in the ditches, and then again the subsidiary outlets are provided so that in different intervals the water is applied to in the crops. Then we move towards the strips, means in the strips the waters is allowed from the outlet, and then now coming towards the basin flooding, in which we provide this is a type of a check flooding is also it is adopted for the orchard trees. One or more tree are generally placed in the basin and surface is flooded as in check method. Means the main supply, firstly channel passes, that is basically the ditches there, that is the main supply. Then the subsidiary ditches are there which reaches to the basin. Means check means a certain areas are there where, like if a tree is if orchard tree is at one place and another orchard tree is at some distance far away from it, then the system
Hello.
sir, I think my mic was off. I did not know when it got off, and
Okay,
so
carry on.
So I think I was on basin flooding. So I said that basin flooding, in which we tries to give the water only to the plots or a particular surrounding of the trees, not to the whole lane, but where there are trees, there are made some boundaries are made to the particular area, and water is allowed to reach to the trees only. Then coming towards the furrow irrigation method now. Now this was just to the method in which we tries to give water to the particular plants and its surrounding. That's also called as the check method, check plot or plot flooding method. Now would be the line of the one would be the line of the one would be the line of the furrow and other would be the line of the crop. Means alternatively we make ditches and we give and we irrigate by allowing water to these ditches, and this is how the irrigation takes place. And the spacing of the furrows is determined by proper spacing of the plants. Means furrows varies from 8 to 30 centimeter deep and maybe as much as long as 400 meter long. And we do not excavate too deep these furrows, because because water will um, will reach to the uh, roots of the soil by just the seepage occurs in seepage water travels laterally. So in this case also, that from the furrows, from the those ditches, water tries to move laterally to the roots of the plants and get irrigated. Now coming towards the drip irrigation method, it is one of the most efficient method. It's efficient because we utilize the water just by giving the specific amount. Means we have a great much control over the application of the water in this method. We we uh, we apply and give water to plant at different spaces. Means drip irrigation is also known as the trickle irrigation, and it's the latest method. And where there is a problem of acute scarcity of the irrigation and other salt problems is there, then in that condition we use the drip irrigation method. In this method, water is slowly and directly applied to the root zones of the plants, thereby minimizing the losses by evaporation and percolation. So if we will apply the water to directly to the roots, then there will be a less chances of evaporation and the percolation. So slow and frequent and precise application of water is there, and most efficient and highest yield. Water used 10% of the flooding and border strip method. Irrigation efficiency is about 80%. So in this method, the mechanism is in such that water oozes out of these small drip nozzles. Means up lateral pipes of certain length are made, and on those lateral pipes emitters are fixed, and those emitters consist of the nozzles from which the water is applied to the uh, from plant to plant. And spaces are decided according to the at which spacing the plants are harvested and so on. Then the sprinkler method. In the form water application method, water is applied to the soil in the form of the spray through a network of the pipes and pumps. So a lateral pipe standing at certain height, a lateral pipe standing at certain height, and in this way, when the that when the water either with the help of a gun is there or any other showering nozzle is there, this sprinkles the water to the field. So the efficiency depends on how much the speed is there and how much at which pressure the water is applied and sprinkled to the field. So sprinkler method depends on it. So in sprinkler method, we use it at places where the where hilly areas is there and where there is more undulations. So in this case we tries to switch towards this method, because this method gives satisfactorily yield and is one of the efficient method. So that's it.